how we built out our Super Baby content architecture. And so just a high-level recap, just in case you've taken a break, it's really important that you are self-pacing yourself through this content because it can be a lot to digest. And we want to make sure you have ample time to really understand how we built out our digital, physical, and data-driven solution. And so back in 2018, when the research was being done on the infant gut microbiome, and we were really trying to figure out a way to prevent preterm infants from dying early, the number one thing that turned out we can control is giving that baby more breast milk. And so that is where we set out, and the National Science Foundation gave us money to go survey hundreds of women across North America and really identify what are the barriers to breastfeeding, open-ended. And this is how the natural nipple was born, because you can see here the predominant portion of the map is related to latching frustration. As a physical problem, overarching, there is a psychosocial component, which time and embarrassment is something that we can't immediately fix, but we can address later on down the road with our IP, which we'll review here. So in terms of nipple frustration or latching frustration related to shape, that's why we went out and 3D scanned women's breast to generate these 4 shapes that are reflective of the population, and we take our vaginal survey and get paired with the shape that's best for you, kind of like Warby Parker's face shape survey. For flow, we were actually the very first to study maternal milk flow or lactation averages over the first year. So we had data that showed preterm infants needed milk at 2.2 milliliters a minute, but nobody went out and studied how growing babies, the rate at which they needed milk. And so this is what we've used as a benchmark for our product with our data-driven solution that you get sent an updated flow rate every 2.5 months to meet your growing baby's feeding demand. You can see here, there's another technique that you can help parents who come through and are triaged and are dealing with nipple frustration specific to flow rate issues. And that's techniques for dealing with existing bottles, such as paste feeding, if we don't have our bottle able to send them right away, which hopefully if you're getting any telehealth visits at this point in time moving forward, we will have plenty of supply to send them a bottle. Nipple frustration related to the density of the product, so oftentimes with a really flimsy nipple, babies will bite more and then come back to breast and they bite mom more, and that can lead to a significant amount of pain. So another option we can help with is providing support groups for moms that are going back to work, that are post-NICU, that have twins, and that are going through COVID-19. And so this is something we've tried to really cultivate in terms of our tone with social media as a supportive community where moms can engage with each other. This is something we try to do with our Ask a Specialist lives and try to cover some of these topics like going back to work. What do we do after leaving the NICU? What do you do when having twins? And so moms can engage in our live Q&As. Another pain point was just shame related to latching and pumping time. We know that the natural nipple bottle is reducing the amount of time to latch, so that was huge for parents. And with pumping time, this is where our code for future mold and auxiliary product licensing will apply. So we can actually take the same technology of 3D scanning and actually utilize our molds to create better fitting pump flanges. So this is down the product pipeline. When it comes to just lack of confidence, many parents just ask, am I doing this right? Like, why is my baby rejecting my body right now? And this is where we can offer in our telehealth visits, because you can see this is the code for psychosocial intervention is yellow, reassurance related to latching, when to introduce certain foods as the baby develops. That's what we offer with the microbiome data-driven insights, so specific foods for their baby's unique gut bacteria, and how to deal with illness symptoms. When parents are afraid of failure, and feeling shame around if they're failing because of perceived milk supply deficiency. This was 12% of parents that were going through, moms specifically, that were going through this. A lot of it actually does come down to education. So if they have introduced a faster flowing bottle, they might, when the baby gets back to breast and is impatient, feel their flow is inadequate. So this is why we have perceived milk supply deficiency. So a solution in addition to our bottle is education on hydration, having nutrient-dense foods to focus on. And this is where our very holistic triage that comes with the Natural Nipple telehealth visit is very important, because we can catch if there is some sort of systemic issue, like maybe uncontrolled diabetes, that could be contributing to any of this supply deficiency. Lack of support was huge, and this grew to actually 96% of parents during COVID. And so access to additional caregivers we feel is really, really important. And this is where our psychosocial intervention after our primary care triage is to refer to appropriate local resources, whether it be a support group, whether it be a lactation consultant, whether it be one of our partners that is a licensed therapist. Okay, and then you can see here in the green the medical issues that were also barriers to breastfeeding. Nipple pain was a big problem. As we discussed, the natural nipple can help with less biting because our density, we actually worked on making it more similar to breast tissue, kind of like that Napoleon Dynamite part of the movie where he was like, don't breasts feel like sandbags? Well, our nipple doesn't, thankfully. And this is where we are addressing this problem with future products. With our molds, we can make natural nipple pacifiers, and also with our sequencing background in terms of the microbiome, making a nipple balm that's probiotic infused. So this is all very proprietary, and part of the contract you're signing for coming on is not to share any future auxiliary product information. I just like to remind everybody of that who's going through this training. Nipple infection. So this is important for us to catch in a telehealth visit if you are one of our clinicians coming on board, and just for everybody to understand the different roles of the team. So, and what we offer in our telehealth visits. We are going to be able to screen you for signs and symptoms of infection with that triage and then that intake form. And so if we find there's excessive redness, swelling, or oozing, we can refer to a local healthcare provider to prescribe an antibiotic. We can also provide our clinical recommendations because we are hiring nationally certified nurse practitioners and nurses. You can actually say, I'm not providing medical care, but with my background, I do recommend putting ice on every 15 minutes and providing topical anti-inflammatory if that is pertinent. If we see that baby's anatomy is potentially an issue with the latch and they've gone through our latch mount survey, we can actually make a referral for a surgical intervention such as cutting a tongue tie. And fourth, we see just equipment not fitting. You can see this is like 3.2%. And so that's where, we intend to develop, we can add this in here. I remember a mom in the class when I was doing the 3D scanning, like, make nipple shields designed after my 3D geometry. We're in view only mode, but we'll update that later. So there's many other auxiliary products that we intend to innovate. Okay, great. So coming back to this trust profile, I just wanted to delve in a little bit deeper into our content architecture here. And this is where, as I mentioned, we want to be really strategic because we know that these are the pain points, that the main barriers to breastfeeding. So we want to make sure we're using the language and the words that moms are searching for on the internet to provide them the solutions that we offer. And so that's where we can make our topics falling underneath any of these umbrellas. We want to go with the ones that have the highest ROI or the biggest pain points first. And so this is an evolving document, and we actually haven't had any of these content ideas hosted as of yet. So just as an update, the rest of Q4 for 2021 is actually hosting other specialists on our podcast, but really for 2022, we want to focus on strategically selecting our specialists or our partners that we host to be able to cover these content areas. So, for instance, signs of a healthy biome. Here's ways that we can push out content aside from our lives and provide context, so case studies and client stories, current events, making sure we're publishing those through the social media when they are related to any of these topics, and personal experiences. So this is why we've launched our Super Mama series, and this is where we've hosted some of our beta testers for them to talk about their experience using the bottle and just listen to their breastfeeding journey. As well as peer experiences. So I just wanted to ensure when we are creating a topic, then we are very selective then for whoever is engaging in PR in terms of how we are moving forward with the podcast scheduling. And so before we move on to podcast scheduling, I'm just going to show you how we actually would stuff these articles. And so this is where I would look at keywords, and this is how you navigate Notion very quickly. You just look over here and hit quick find, keywords, or perhaps AdWords is where it will pop up. Oh, I wanted to provide you the hyperlink, so it's here in affiliate strategy. So bi-monthly blogs stuffed with updated keywords in Google AdWords. So here is where you can see some common words that we want to ensure after we've hosted our guest on the podcast and synthesize the blog about the article. We're trying to fit in as many of these SEO, essentially, indicators as possible. So there's one Google AdWords. Here is a more thorough list. You can actually see the top of page results here. So not only are we trying, the goal with the Super Baby content architecture is not only are we trying to provide value for our perinatal audience in the areas that they need it most, but we are really working on making our site the most robust and well-found solution for them. And so I've included a tutorial here. You can see as part of our roadmap, the Q3 goal for this year is the affiliate strategy to really help lower customer acquisition cost by increasing pre-order placements. So what we have built out is essentially 10 to 30% commission for our direct-to-consumer influencers. So that's mommy bloggers, mommies on Instagram, and our clinical key stakeholders. And the success criteria is making sure that we are creating quarterly marketing content, utilizing our Super Baby strategy. We're adding more influencers to target, and so this is what we have built out right now. You can see if you click on the hyperlink. So this is a really robust list, and what we've done is actually went ahead and refined it even further in the affiliate dissemination plan. So you can see here that we've already got 12 affiliates signed up, and in influencers to target, we have CPM guidelines. So from that extensive list of influencers, we've actually broken them down by the amount of followers they have. So this is cost per million is the term, and if they have 15,000 to 50,000 followers, we can offer them 10% commission. So I'll just clarify that here. If they have 51,000 and 99,000, they get 15% commission, etc. So, for instance, this is on any product on the site, but I have listed if they're just selling the latch match unit, then they're actually going to get $8 profit per bottle, for instance, if they're at that CPM. And payouts every 90 days. And we have the share sell program set up, and that's part of our messaging template with the updated link that needs to be incorporated here. So they go on share sale, they actually build out a profile here, which I will update even right now. So this program essentially makes it really easy for us to automatically pay out any of our affiliates. Excellent.